What's your favorite color? Simple question, right? Mine is this golden yellow because it has this taste of nostalgia in it. It reminds me of innocent childhoods in our 77 yellow Datsun where I would sit cocooned in the back for hours. It reminds me of sunflowers, sunrises, sunsets, days of unguarded joy. So a few years ago, I could not have answered that. I'd spent so long learning everyone else's favorite things. I knew his favorite meals, the songs that made him emotional, the stories that made him laugh, the things he needed when he had a hard day. I knew all of it. And if you had asked me what I needed, I don't think I would have known what to say. Today, I want to talk about the kind of people pleasing that happens inside love, where you slowly become so focused on being chosen, being kept, being irreplaceable that you stop existing separately from the relationship. Honestly, I thought I was just loving deeply because I lost both of my parents at a young age. There was always this little voice in the back of my mind that told me to make every moment count, to love with abandon, which I would do until I get hurt by that person. That's a story for another day. But looking back, I disappeared inside the people I loved. I was in relationships almost nonstop from the time I was 19, with about 3 months being the longest gap I ever had until the last 3 years. I have been single. I would start out fitting this person into my life, making time where I could. And then one small decision at a time, I would say yes when I meant no, quickly stuffing down that little discomfort that would rise up in my throat, which I eventually realized was self abandonment. And the relationship became this slow merging. I would enter his world so completely that eventually I could not tell where he ended and I began. And I was good at it. I created these beautiful experiences, thoughtful moments, pure magic. I did love people beautifully, but every time a relationship ended, I would fall apart. And for years, I thought I was grieving the relationship. I realized I was grieving versions of myself, the romantic side of me that would come out, the creative version of me, the soft side, the version of me that only came alive when I was subconsciously trying to love the mess out of people. Someone I loved told me that once, that I was trying to love the mess out of him. It took me a long time to realize that was not my job, that loving someone shouldn't come at the cost of losing myself. I was the girl who made everything feel meaningful and cinematic and alive, but I'd been giving her away to other people, never to myself. And sometimes, people said I was too much, but I wrote this line in my memoir years ago, and it still gets me every time I read it. I had exaggerated my role in other people's lives when what I needed to do instead was live large in mine. Live large in mine. That line still hurts because it's true. I'd spent years folding myself to fit, making myself easier and more digestible, and calling it love. But somewhere along the way, my body learned that being easy was how you stayed loved. Be low maintenance, be useful, be attentive, be a good little girl. Don't need too much. Don't take up too much space. And when you learn that early, it becomes just this automatic and subconscious thing. So by the time you realize you've disappeared, you've already been gone a long time. And I think a lot of women do this, especially women who grew up believing love could be lost. You become hyper aware and adaptive and emotionally observant. You learn that connection equals safety. So naturally, you become whatever keeps that connection going. But eventually, your body starts feeling the cost. You feel disconnected from yourself. And that's how I felt: indecisive, emotionally exhausted, lost, because somewhere underneath all the adapting, your actual self is still waiting to be heard. And I don't think healing starts with becoming harder or swearing off relationships either. I don't believe that. I think it starts with becoming curious about yourself again. What do you actually like? Not what other people like or what fits someone else's lifestyle, not what makes you easier to keep around. You, like, what makes you feel alive when nobody's watching, or that question is what really changed my life slowly. I started noticing what music I played when I was alone, what restaurants I chose when nobody else had an input, what kind of mornings actually made me feel peaceful. That's my favorite that I figured out. What dreams kept returning to me even when I tried to ignore them, if other people had made me feel stupid about them before. And I realized something really painful and really beautiful at the same time. The parts of me I was searching for in relationships that only came alive in relationships were never actually gone. They were just buried underneath me adapting and trying to fit into other people's lives. And maybe that's what returning to yourself looks like. It's not about reinventing yourself, but just remembering the woman God created before the world told you who you needed to be in order to stay loved or to stay chosen. So if this episode resonated with you, I want you to do something small tonight. Put on some music you genuinely love. Order your favorite food. Watch something you like. Wear something that feels like you. And pay attention to what comes alive, because the return to yourself usually happens quietly first, one remembered thing at a time. ወደ ቤት ለመምጣት አንድ እርምጃ ብቻ ይርቃል. That means one step at a time toward coming home in my native language, Amharic. So if this resonated, the rhythm quiz is in the description. It's free. It'll show you how these patterns tend to show up in the way you are wired. I'm Leah, and I make these videos to remind you that you are not behind. God already built a unique rhythm for your life. Stay on beat. Bye.